I'm Sam Roberts of the New York Times, and welcome to the New York Times Close-Up. This week we'll be joined by former New York City Public Advocate and prolific author Mark Green. We'll discuss his new book, The Inflection Election. Mark sees the upcoming election as a choice between electing a party of progress and a party of dangerous extremism. But first, New York City has some governance issues of its own right now. Mayor Adams and his inner circle, the subject of 4 separate federal investigations. Our guest was nominated in July by the mayor as the corporation counsel, the city's top lawyer. Earlier this month, he withdrew his nomination in the face of the city council's overwhelming opposition. Randy Mastro, thank you for joining us. Why do you think the council's consideration of your nomination was so unfair? You withdrew because they were going to reject it. Why?
That's the great conundrum, Sam. Mayor Adams proposed a candidate, a nominee who had unique experience in city government, who had overwhelming support in the legal community, including among 5 former corp counsel, going back 4 administrations to the Dinkins administration, had the support of the entire political establishment in the Democratic Party from when we served together in government, who himself is a lifelong Democrat, who has had a record of litigating pro bono, progressive causes, civil rights issues, social justice issues, serving as chair of Citizens Union, vice chair of the Legal Aid Board. It's astonishing to me that at the end of the day, the city council didn't see all that I could potentially bring to the table as corporation counsel with all of that experience and background and shared values. But I think at the end of the day, Sam, it became very clear from the way the hearings themselves were conducted that the speaker wanted to deny the mayor his choice as corporation counsel. And therefore, I felt that in all fairness to all concerned, the right thing to do was to withdraw my nomination with a heavy heart, because I really wanted to serve. I've said it before, it was my dream job. It was the one position in city government that I aspired to do, having already been a deputy mayor. And I would have loved to do it with a vision to move more of that great law department's resources into affirmative litigation, something that hasn't happened before, to do those kinds of social justice and civil rights and constitutional rights cases, public safety cases affirmatively, to protect New Yorkers' rights affirmatively instead of just defending cases. It could have been transformative. So for me, it's obviously a missed opportunity personally, but you know, if I can be so bold, I think it's a missed opportunity for our city at a time when I'm reminded of the words of Michelle Obama at the Democratic National Convention. Do something. I answered that call. I wanted to do something for the public good in New York City, and unfortunately I won't have that opportunity.
The conventional wisdom is there were 2 reasons you won't have that opportunity. One, some of the clients you have represented, although it seems that everyone is entitled to a defense, even though you have a choice of whom you represent, of course. And the other is that you worked for Rudy Giuliani, who has become increasingly tainted, to say the least, over the years. Is that a fair assessment?
I think you left out the principal reason. And the principal reason was the animosity that unfortunately has developed between the city council and the mayor, the council's view of the mayor. And to me, that's a shame, because even when you don't agree politically on every issue, you want to find common ground. You want to have communication. You want to make progress. The essence of being a progressive is making progress, not burning the house down because you don't like somebody who's living there. And I think this ended up, at the end of the day, being more about the speaker and certain elements of the council wanting to deny the mayor his chosen nominee, no matter what the qualifications of that person. On the other issues, I think they were pretextual. As a lifelong Democrat, When I was in City Hall, I worked so well with Democrats, including your next guest, Mark Green, that even though he didn't always agree with the Giuliani administration, he, Freddie Ferrer, and others, I was always a bridge to work with them to get things done. And we worked constructively together. So they endorsed me, despite the fact that they didn't always agree with the Giuliani administration, because they recognize that the essence of government is communication, working together, and we got things done. That's what worries me about where we are today, that you have such antagonism, that people are no longer focused on doing the public's good for the people of New York City. They're more focused, unfortunately, on political agenda that sometimes cause not only stalemate, but chaos.
We never have the opportunity to go back and correct our mistakes or, look at things a second time, but is there anything you would have done differently under the Giuliani administration?
Sam, I answered this at the hearings, and I answered it frankly. There are certain things, didn't always agree with everything in that administration, but the essence of being a counselor to be trusted is someone who keeps a confidence, expresses their views in confidence. But I said frankly to the city council, I wish we as an administration had done a better job communicating with and connecting with communities of color, being more sensitive to the concerns of those communities. I think that would have gone a long way, because so many things that happen in my time in city government, so many of the things that I was personally responsible for, like shepherding through the most sweeping domestic partnership laws in the country to protect same-sex couples, taking on organized crime at the Fulton Fish Market and the private carding industry, and living to tell the tale after death threats, and winning. So many of those things, so positive for our city as a whole. I wish we had done a better job reaching out.
Mayor Adams has been there for almost 3 years. If you had been Corp Counsel, is there anything you would have advised him not to do that he did in those 3 years?
Again, a good counselor, a trusted counselor, is someone who keeps the confidence. So my communications with Mayor Adams on different subjects, that's between me and him. Just as it would have been between me and Speaker Adams had she gotten past her antipathy towards the mayor and approved my nomination. But the fact of the matter is, you always strive to do better. You always strive to find more common ground. I see between the mayor and the council more in common than that separates them. And I think it's really a matter of communication and finding common ground. It's what I did when I was deputy mayor in charge of intergovernmental relations, working so closely with that overwhelmingly Democrat city council, that Peter Vallone and his entire senior staff and many council members at the time supported me for this position, because we built those bridges. Sometimes those bridges, they take a lot of energy, a lot of understanding, a lot of listening. Unfortunately, at City Hall right now, the council doesn't seem to be listening to the mayor, and we all need that kind of common ground and that common understanding. I care first and foremost about the city. That means I support the city. That means I support the city administration, and I support the city council, no matter how disrespected I may have been at those hearings. And I'm not the one to comment on that. Every editorial board that weighed in this city commented on how unfairly I was treated, how it was a kangaroo court, how they denied the city the service of an honorable and eminently qualified person. Every editorial board. But the fact of the matter is that I always approached city government, and would have approached this position, as one where you're representing everyone in the city, both the mayor and the council, and doing everything you can to bring them together. That's why we got so many things done in the 90s, because a mayor and a speaker found ways to work together even when they disagreed and were from different political parties.
Randy, the Corporation Council, as you well know, represents the city, not necessarily the mayor himself.
Yes, correct.
But given all the investigations that this mayor and his cadre of people around him are involved in, wouldn't you be a little wary of going to work for this mayor at this point?
I'm glad you asked that question because, first of all, the fact that an investigation is occurring doesn't mean that someone has necessarily done something wrong. There were major investigations in the prior administration. And in almost every administration, there have been some investigations. The Corp Council's role would not be to be representing the mayor or those individuals in those investigations. That's a separate matter. It's outside the scope of what the Corporation Council does. But to me, the need for people to answer the call now is greater than ever. We are in an enormously sensitive period for our city government.
Well,
now,
we're in a sensitive period, but given the fact that there are so many suspicions, not any proof yet, not any indictments, not any formal charges, as you say, but wouldn't you have been a little concerned going to work for this administration at this point, or no?
Well, first of all, I would have been working for the entire city.
Correct.
And including the city council. And as I said to the speaker at those hearings, you know, I intend to be the best lawyer you, meaning the council, has ever had, being responsive to you. And I even laid out instances in which what was going on right now, I would do differently in ways the council would like, not having to fill out forms to get meetings with commissioners, you know, following the rule of law. And if the council passes a law, it's incumbent upon the administration to go to court to challenge that. You know, these are things that
Not to ignore it arbitrarily.
Exactly. So, you know, it should have been obvious to the council that I was going to be a strong, independent voice for the city. Evident from all those cases they say that I brought, standing up to mayors, governors, even presidents, suing Donald Trump when he was president for what he did, and others at Lafayette Square in June of 2020 to those peaceful racial justice protesters. I have a track record of being a strong, independent voice. I think I could have done that. I hope whoever assumes the position will do that. But the fact of the matter is, you can represent effectively all branches of government by increasing communication, being responsive, and bringing people to the table to get it together. In terms of the mayor, he's our mayor. We want to help him succeed. Everybody in city government should feel that way about the mission. We want to see the city council succeed. So everyone should feel that way about the mission. Get them together, get them working together. That's what I had hoped to do.
And of course, you've done that as chairman of Citizens Union
Yes,
as well.
definitely.
One quick last question. Should the council have veto power over mayoral appointments like Corp Council, and the city council now wants the same authority over almost 24 more mayoral appointments?
So it would be easy for me to give a glib answer based on my experience. I urge anyone to look at those hearings that individual council members who participated called me afterwards to say that was a coordinated plan to attack me, that it was unprofessional and that it was unfair. But I look at it a little differently. As a lawyer, it's not my job to set policy. As a lawyer, it's my job to advise clients and give them the best representation possible. I would have done that. It'll ultimately be up to New Yorkers what they decide to do about whether the city council should have more authority over mayoral appointments or less authority over mayoral appointments. That's not going to be up to me. But you know, I think when one looks at this situation, how this particular confirmation process was handled, I can see why every editorial board that weighed in criticized and even condemned the council's conduct.
Randy Mastro, thank you for joining us. Coming up next, former New York City Public Advocate Mark Green. He'll discuss his new book, The Inflection Election. Our next guest's career in New York City public service, politics, advocacy spans several decades. Mark Green was New York City's first elected public advocate. He's a well-recognized progressive voice in New York. He's also authored countless books and is here now to discuss his latest one, The Inflection Election, Progress or Extremism. He's talking, of course, about this year's presidential election. Now, the original title was a little bit different. You talked about democracy or fascism. Is the threat no longer between democracy and fascism?
It's worse. Trump is an admitted fascist. If you use the checklist historically of pro-violence, indifferent to law, picks on others, other races, big lies sustain him. But the national media, the mainstream media would talk about Biden's age. 50 articles in the paper of record. I couldn't find an article that he was a fascist. The word
that
was...
Trump was.
That Trump was. And so throughout the book, I say it's an inflection election. This is not Jimmy Carter versus Gerald Ford, to date me. This is either the last election or we diminish, make America a monarchy again, mama. I mean, Trump is a proven, adjudicated rapist, racist, coaxes violence, then blames Democrats for violence, and he's a pathological liar. So anybody who says, well, Trump says, I say to myself, that's evidence. He makes everything up in the moment. And so when he won, I was as floored as anybody. I remember Norman Cousins' statement, no one's smart enough to be a pessimist. So I collected string, and it led to a trilogy with Skyhorse Publishing, Fake President, Wrecking America, and now The Inflection Election, because it's either going to be one or the other. This is not a close question. It's an easy question if you've been reading.
Mark, don't we have enough checks and balances in the constitutional system to maybe worry about Donald Trump's being elected, according to critics, but knowing that we're going to be spared fascism or something close to it, even if the critics are right?
I would say most people assume that. I did. Just like you're in a car, you hit an ice patch, you're skidding toward a cliff. 100% of people who are driving would say, I can't believe this is happening, because it's never happened before. For 248 years, you were right. But right now, we're on the brink of this trinity of venality of Trump, who's uniquely untrustworthy and corrupt through life. Elon Musk, he's not just a robber baron or William Randolph Hearst. He's the most powerful non-head of state in the world. And he uses Twitter, which I'm on, to encourage neo-Nazis and anti-Semites under the rubric of free speech. And finally, Chief Justice John Roberts, eminently qualified and smart, but he has taken the court, as front page New York Times article indicated, in a direction that precedent matters unless it hurts Trump. So over the last decade, he has authored articles allowing way more money in campaigns, limiting voting by minorities in the Voting Rights Act, and now giving immunity to presidents for core acts, because the chance that the existing system that you and I approve of might fail, it's worked for nearly over 2 centuries, is worth giving immunity to a proven, I want to be a dictator president who may be president again. So it was illogical, it was unlegal, and he's put his finger on the scale. And Roberts will be remembered as, like, since Chief Judge Taney in 1857, the Dred Scott decision, he'll be looked on eventually as the worst.
How do we account for the fact that the polls are so close, given what you say? Does America want a fascist president? And just this past week, 16,000 more people turned out in Long Island in support of Donald Trump.
If I knew the answer to that, I would have charged you to be on your show. I can't explain it because I'm from a world, I'm a lawyer, I like facts, I like footnotes.
And you're a New Yorker, too.
And I'm a New Yorker, and I'm surrounded. Manhattan went 90% for Biden. I always thought, like other Western democracies, that America was 1/4 racist or nervous about people of another color or race.
And that's been historically true.
Correct. Absolutely 40% of American voters now would vote for Trump. And the last two times he ran, he got 46%. And I'm not a psychologist, but there are people who feel like never got their due. The failure was not theirs, but the system. And they identify with Trump's chesty Caesarism. He looks tough, he's big, he never apologizes. And it's as likely that they will change their mind as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan will suddenly buy New York Giants season tickets. It's their identity. So when he's attacked, they're attacked. Now, so how does Trump lose? First of all, he was 3 ahead of Biden 2 months ago. Harris, in national polls, which is not how you count who wins president, she's now 4 to 5 ahead. But the trend line is against him. And if I believe, we've talked about this off air, a switch has been flipped, that papers like the New York Times, which will ask dozens of times, is Biden too old, would not ask, is Trump a fascist? Because he's not Hitler. No one's Hitler. He did say to John Kelly, his chief of staff, you know, Hitler did some good things. He does have a book of speeches by Hitler by his bed, according to his breakup agreement. And he does say that mostly Latino immigrants are vipers who are poisoning the blood of America. Now, that's literally lifted from Hitler. So there are people who refuse to accept that analysis. I believe he's an admitted fascist, just based on, look at Tim Snyder's books, what fascists do. Hence the Inflection Election. And after he won, I dedicated myself, among other things, to exposing and defeating him through my small voice in books and the hope that I'd be on close-up.
Thank you, and you've succeeded. You complained to me not long ago that you thought the Times, you didn't use this exact phrase, was too even-handed in its treatment of Trump, that we had sort of created a false equivalency in covering him. I recall stories that shocked me on the front page of the Times that talked about not quite comparing him to Hitler, but that read to me as if it was the Weimar Republic in 1933, looking forward to what another Trump administration might be like. How far can a newspaper like the New York Times go without being accused of bias, without going off the deep end? Where do you draw the line between false equivalency and bias?
If I knew the answer to that question, I'd also charge to come on. That's a very hard question. No, I'm not the executive editor, obviously. But equal treatment works because you want all sides heard. When you're dealing within a range of ideologies. Looking back, obviously, Hitler told us what he was going to, and again, Trump is not Hitler, but he told us what he was going to do. He intended to use the chancellery to overturn the Reichstag and take absolute power. So we know it in retrospect. I tell you, I'm saying this, and I finished the book in early 2024, before I found out, which we all did this week, that Trump and Vance made up the blood libel that Haitians, black minorities, were eating cats and dogs in Ohio. And a whole town now has gotten 33 death threats and bomb scares because he said that. You can't treat that like, well, on one hand, Kamala Harris claims credit for a bill that she really didn't write. On the other hand, Trump wants to scare black people in America by libeling them. That's, you have to distinguish, which I try to do in the book, however unpopular it may be to some people. And the New York Times, in my view, in this last week has changed. And Peter Baker's article, and others, another one today, this is taped Thursday, he is pro-violence. He is saying that he wants to arrest journalists, donors, political critics. He said, if I see a Democratic rival beating me, I can then indict them. That's a quote. How are you going to be even-handed with that? You got to expose it before it's too late.
What, very quickly, does she have to do in the next couple of weeks to win this election?
Whatever she's been doing.
Doesn't she have to be more specific? Tell us what she would really do if she were president?
Fine. Like Trump, he never gets specific. And so when you're ahead, keep doing what you're doing. So she's laid out that she wants to have certain subsidies for first-time home buyers, for small businesses, of course, reinstate Roe v. Wade legislatively, or at the Supreme Court level, were she to have some appointments. She is doing extremely well. I was for Elizabeth Warren in 2020. I thought she was extraordinary. I underestimated Kamala Harris, and she's excelling. And people who say, oh, she hasn't been specific enough for me, like they want to know the exact number of people who will get the $25,000 subsidy for what's a first-time home buyer? Every day now, she will contrast herself with Trump, and explain her ideas, and I hope come up with a ribbon, if not the New Deal, that's been used. A rising patriotism, that instead of patriotism being regarded as a bigger military budget and flex your muscles and foreign policy and denigrate the other party, a higher patriotism about voting, and we're all better off, and we're all better off economically. There are themes and a vision that she can define. I don't know if she'll do that because she probably doesn't have to, but this is a bellwether election, and I hope she wins not just marginally, but with a mandate.
Thanks to Mark Green for joining us. Again, the book is titled The Inflection Election, Progress or Extremism. You can get it on Amazon, from Skyhorse Publishing, or at a bookstore. That's it for this edition of Close Up for the New York Times and CUNY TV. I'm Sam Roberts, and don't forget to download the CUNY TV app, where you can catch our weekly program on the go, anytime, anywhere.